Hello, hello, and good afternoon, everyone. As folks are joining, I want to welcome you all to our webinar for today on virtual teaching at Stride. Is it for you? Feel free to state your name and what state you're coming from in the chat box, and we'll start in 1 minute. Just want to give everyone time to come in the room. But welcome, everyone, and feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. All right, let's see who is in the room. All right, I see New York, Florida, Canada, welcome. Texas, North Carolina, Maryland. I see some more folks from Florida, Ohio. Welcome, welcome. Michigan. Again, those, if you're just joining, feel free to say your name and state that you're coming from. We just want to see who's joining us today, and we'll start in a minute. Welcome. I see someone from Las Vegas. Quite a few from New York, Kansas, Mexico, Virginia, South Carolina. That's great. Welcome. Just so you know that this webinar will be recorded. So if you're unable to stay the whole time, we will be making it available to everyone that registered. We'll send that out to you after the event is over. But let's go ahead and get started. Again, today we're talking about virtual teaching at Stride. Is it for you? My name is Andrea Wilson. I work in our HR department, and I will be your host and moderator today. And another person that's working on my team is Courtney. She'll be in the chat box and also helping out with our Q&A. And our panelists for today, we have Christina Russell and Brittany Churchill. They will be talking with us today about virtual teaching. And before I get started, I'll just let them hop on the mic and just introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Russell. I am on the talent development and community team here at Stride. But before that, I was a high school and middle school English teacher. And I live in Denver, Colorado. So welcome.
Hey everybody, I'm Brittany Churchill. I'm also on the talent development and community team. I'm the production specialist, but before that I taught in K through 3rd classrooms, all of those grade levels for many years. So that's really where my heart lies, is in early development in K through 3. And I hail, many of you are from Florida. I'm from Tallahassee, not from Houston, but live in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm so excited to speak to all of you today. Welcome.
Thank you, ladies. And again, you'll be hearing from them shortly. But first, just want to give some housekeeping rules. If you are joining today and you've already applied and you have questions about the application or salary questions, you'll need to send an email to recruiting@K12. Unfortunately, we won't be able to give application updates or anything like that during this webinar, or specific salary questions. Please be sure to email recruiting@K12.com. We also want to encourage you to put your questions in our Q&A box. You should see just a bar across your screen, and it says Q&A. So questions that you have for us, put those in there so that way we can answer those during the Q&A portion. All right, so if this is your first time at a webinar of ours, you may have seen our name as K12, but recently we have switched to Stride. And I know that we still have, commercials on TV that say K12. We recently changed to Stride because we are focused on the lifelong learner, and it just doesn't end after grades, 12th grade. So we've accumulated some other companies such as Galvanize, MedCerts, Tech Elevator, and Reactor. Some of those are dealing with coding boot camps, and then MedCerts helps with medical certification. And we also offer college prep courses. So that is the main reason we have updated our, or not updated, but changed our name to Stride. But you will see K-12, that branding, when you see different commercials about our schools. And again, by changing our name to Stride, again, these are some of the people that we support. We do believe that education is for everyone, and our mission is to help learners of all ages reach their full potential through inspired teaching and personalized learning. So with our online learning and how that works here, just to start off, all of our K-12 Stride powered teachers, they are state certified and thoroughly trained in online instruction. Our teachers, they meet with their students in an online virtual classroom, and our teachers and parents typically communicate by email or phone to discuss student progress. And we'll dive deeper into the day-to-day in our next slide. So we can start with Christina and then Brittany to just give your experience when you were teaching, what that day looked like.
Hi, everyone. So when I was teaching middle school and high school here in Colorado for Colorado Prep Academy, it was very similar. Each department had a block of time where they would teach. So for us, for the English department, we taught from 9 to 11, Monday through Thursday. Now in that 2-hour block, the courses that we taught, we had the flexibility to kind of create our own schedule. So if I needed to have more small group intervention courses in a week, I could do that. Typically, I would have 2 large group sessions on Monday and Wednesday, and then the rest of the time on Tuesday and Thursday, maybe sometimes on Monday and Wednesday, I would pull students in, work with them on maybe some standards that I noticed they struggled with. So my morning would pertain to instruction, and then in the afternoon would be when I would plan, I would respond to emails, and I would make phone calls to my families, to give the students kudos for doing a great job in class that day, or reach out and see if they needed any help. And then on Fridays we did not teach, but that was when we had our staff meeting time, we had PLCs, and then that also gave me some more time to reach out to families and to plan for the next week, or maybe plan and pull data for my next DDI meeting, since I did have those 2 times a month with my admin. So that was kind of roughly what the week looked like. And then every Monday I would have my grade book updated. I would post announcements for my students about the week, kind of at a glance, and what to be on the lookout for. So there was some structure, some clear structure throughout the week. But when it came to the details, we weren't managed by bells, like you might have been in a brick and mortar setting. And I had that flexibility to really make decisions based on the needs of my students and my families.
It'll be hard to follow that one up. But Andrew, did you want to go really quickly and then I'll jump in?
I was going to ask Christina, what was your class size like for those sessions?
Great question. So if I invited my whole class, it was usually about 70 students. I never had 100% attendance. So I would say it was more in like the 30 to 40 students per class range. And then for my small group sessions, that could be anywhere from 3 students, but no more than 20 would be invited. Again, I didn't always have 100% attendance for those, but that was kind of roughly what the class sizes looked like.
Thanks, Rosina. Brittany, you can.
So just a couple of things to add, really speaking to the K-5 perspective, because I know that planning was quite a bit different for myself. And I know that that's traditional based on my experience compared to a middle high school teacher. Like, it was just a different structure, different schedule. I noticed a lot of folks asking questions about being state certified, all of those pieces. all of our schools are state-based, so that is a consideration, just like any other school across the country, is that our teachers are state certified. The best teachers there are, I believe, and I hope all of you are heading our way, because we have an amazing culture and group of teachers here. But going back to scheduled, specifically what's different from the elementary perspective is that, to Christina's point, and just really incredible best practice in teaching in general, we have impeccable tools that allow us to have more flexibility in our scheduling. And although you might have a larger or see a larger class size, like Christina mentioned, 75 students, I had about 58 students. The great thing about that was I have those students at different times. So I was able to use the data within the online learning school that is provided through Stride and developed by teachers and given feedback on by teachers to be a better and better tool. So I knew I could always rely on that. What I needed would be built into the Stride platforms. And then from there, I was able to use that data to take that 58 students and break them into smaller groupings, so I could really meet those specific students' needs. And being a third grade teacher at FLCCA, I had 58 students, but most often I would break them into groupings based on needs for each subject area and be able to meet with a smaller group size of like 5 to 8 students, so that I could get to know my students really well in that live online environment and move them forward with scaffolds necessary for those particular students. So it kind of brings me back to the idea of, having guided reading time and running stations. I no longer had to also run stations. I could just focus on that guided reading group while students were working independently in the online school. So it really lends itself hours 8 to 5, but within those hours 8 to 5, I was able to decipher when was best for my students and strategize a small group session that was great for them, and then strategize when they'd be working more asynchronously as well. So those are a lot of the pieces that I thought about in my typical day. One of the really important things that I think is important to mention is that, Christina mentioned this a lot too, is that a lot of that day is planning on finding opportunities to connect at a social level with families and students as well. So I think in the classroom, we think about that a lot: restorative justice circles, social circles. That's something that, we add into the schedule as well to make sure that we're able to meet our families and students on a social support, and while we're balancing that throughout the day with the small group instruction. So I'll pause there.
Awesome. And I also want to add that each school is different. Like they were saying, Brittany was teaching in Florida and Christina was teaching in Colorado. So we wanted to give, as far as with this slide, just showing the as general as possible, but there may be some differences from school to school. So I just want to mention that not every school is the same. We also offer schools that maybe focus just on credit recovery, or and then we have schools that go all the way up from kindergarten to high school. So I just wanted to make mention of that as well. So I wanted to, we'll stop here for a bit so we can kind of touch on each of these subjects. And I know we talked about the schedule, so I want to talk a little bit about the digital tools and resources that Stride offers for virtual teachers. And I'll start with Brittany, and then Christina can piggyback off that.
Okay, sorry, I was just looking at some of those questions. So we spoke a little bit to the schedule piece. And I did notice in the chat a question about optional sessions. I definitely wouldn't say that they're optional because the same, the way I think about it as a teacher is I am a teacher, whether I'm online or whether I'm in a traditional classroom, and it is my job to move these students forward. So it is possible that you will have a caseload of students who are higher performing, can work more asynchronously or on project-based learning and not meet as often. But when they do meet, those are definitely sessions that I would make required because I need them there, because I need to have that access point with them to make sure I'm moving them all forward. So, maybe there's opportunities that there are, schools where they will have sessions that are not mandatory, but the responsibility is the same. And I just want to name that because to me, it was very important that my kids were always there. Like we're talking 100%, 100% of the time, or they were getting a phone call home. Like I needed to know where they were, because even though they were at home in the safety of their home with the safety of a supportive learning coach and a learning environment, I am still responsible for moving that student forward on an academic and social level. And so I take that responsibility as it is a very committed time frame, because during that day from 8 to 5, I am doing everything that I can to get those students in the classroom and to make sure that I am getting them invested, engaged, getting to know them, and moving them forward academically. When it comes to digital tools and resources, the digital tools that we use are given to us from Stride, which is awesome because there's an entire online learning school that we would utilize. And that's our access point to students. That's their access point to built curriculum from Stride. And it's a really powerful point for access to that online learning space as well in Neuro. And so similar to Zoom, we use a program like Neuro that was specifically developed to be a classroom space. So for those of you who might have experienced teaching in Zoom or Blackboard or other programs that are out there, they weren't built like Neuro, which was built to be a classroom where we think about the size of the pencil for a math teacher, or we think about the types of tools and backgrounds that are embedded for a teacher, or breakout rooms to do things more independently, to have students be able to work more independently and bring them back together. So there's some really cool things that Stride has done based on teacher needs to be able to take what you all did incredibly in the environment you were in before into the online environment. And so that all comes into play with these last 4 pieces, because to take that responsibility into the online environment, it's not only important to invest, engage, and empower the student, it's also important to do that with their parents. And I say parents lightly because a learning coach is not always a parent. It could be anyone in that student's community that's committing to supporting them through their schooling throughout the day. And so that is such an important piece. And we have an entire department devoted to supporting teachers in getting the tools that they need to be able to build the relationships with students and parents to get the type of engagement needed. And with that, Christina and I really, and maybe Christina, I'll kind of pass it for those last 3 since I've been talking for so long, but the last 3, it's really great that we're here talking about this because these are really 3 pieces that we spend a lot of time in. So I'll pass it to Christina on these 3 and then pass it back if you need anything, but I've definitely been talking for a while.
Well, I'm sure everyone can tell we're just passionate about what we do because we love our students, we love our families, and we really love our teachers, because that's really what Brittany and I lean into the most in our talent development and community team, is making sure that you have the resources that you need, you get the professional development that you need so that you can be really successful in this online world. So this might kind of hit on a couple of the boxes as well, but we do have something called K-12 training that is available to all of our teachers, and you can search based on platform, you can search based on content areas that you might be interested in, like targeted instruction and how to differentiate your class activities depending on your students. We've got information on data-driven instruction for synchronous and asynchronous. There's so many resources in K-12 training that we could probably spend the whole webinar talking about that. So I'm just going to stop right there and let you know that if there's something that you want more training on individually, and you're just going to maybe put that as part of your goal for the year, you can go into K-12 training and explore whatever you want to and learn more about it. Now, having said that, we also have department-wide, school-wide professional developments that we do offer our teachers. Right now, we're kind of in the session of getting back to school. We're getting ready for launch and the students coming. So we do have a lot of professional developments going on for a bunch of our schools throughout the state, depending on what they need from us. So for example, I just had a professional development last week for a school in Kansas, only for the English department, just on engagement strategies in our platform called Neuro that Brittany mentioned. So very, very, very specific audience. You know, there are only 6 teachers or so, 8 teachers in that professional development, but you can request things of the talent development and community team, really tailor them specific to your needs. And then we will work with you to get something on the calendar to support you in whatever way possible. Another resource that we have is our SOS consult, where you could even request a chunk of time to work one-on-one with a specialist like Brittany or myself. And that could be on how to get the students on the microphone in your classroom setting. It could be how to organize my gradebook better. It could be how to have fruitful discussions with the learning coach or with a parent or something like that to really make sure that this is a team effort and that we're helping the students succeed. So I mean, we focus on everything, I feel like, on the talent development and community team to help with student and parent engagement, to give you tools and resources that you need to provide you with professional development. Curriculum and lesson planning, that is definitely something that's offered in all of our content areas. And, you know, you can chat with your administration or the lead of your department as well when you're filling out your curriculum maps and going through your lessons. But again, in K-12 training, we have a lot of information on how you can tailor your lessons and your units and potentially add to them or maybe hide some things or change the questions on a quiz or a test to fit your students' needs. So that's all available as well. And then there is, of course, a teacher evaluation that the TDC team, we don't have anything to do with that necessarily, except provide you the resources so that you can be successful throughout the school year. But that is something just like in any other school you would have to do as well, where, you know, you are ranked and your admin kind of takes care of all of that. So really, you know, just think of our K-12 powered schools as a regular traditional school setting. We just don't have walls and we have a lot more flexibility, and there's no commute to get to work. You know, you're not in rush hour traffic. We do dress professionally, but it's, I would say it's a little bit more relaxed throughout the day than it might feel like in a traditional brick and mortar setting. You know, the coffee commute is very close. Like, you don't have to travel too much. So it's a really great environment to be in. I hope I kind of touched on everything, but let me know if I missed anything.
I think both of you covered everything perfectly. I was going and looking at some of the questions that were regarding that to see if maybe we needed to go back to, someone was asking, do students receive materials, manipulatives? What curriculum materials do Stride teachers use? I guess I know you talked about the curriculum, but if the manipulatives or materials part, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So students are sent materials that they need. They have textbooks, you know, and Brittany, maybe you can talk to the younger groups because I didn't have those, but I do believe that they can receive math manipulatives as well. You know, my kids, they always had like their anthologies, their English anthologies. They had novels sent to them. So they are given materials that they need, stuff for science, labs, art materials, all of that comes to the students so that they have what they need in order to be successful at our school.
Yes, I actually have a kit still with my letter tiles, color tiles for whiteboards, and like a K-12 binder and 2D shapes as a teacher. So the reason I can show you that I have these things is because I'm a teacher and the teacher also gets the manipulatives that their students will have, which was so impactful to me because then I knew exactly what my students would have to be able to grab and utilize within my live lessons. And so everything is sent to you. I think one of the really important things that Christina mentioned is we provide curriculum. We provide the lesson planning materials. We provide samples and support, but our company is very big on empowering authentic and teaching and autonomy. And so Christina mentioned, we do support in moving the curriculum around, right, based on a certain state standards. Sometimes a certain area of study needs to come before in the state of Florida than where it falls into play in the state of Denver. And so we have the ability to edit the curriculum as needed. But one of the things that I'll mention is the folks that develop our curriculum have been in education for a very long time and have considered best practices across other curriculum development, companies, considerations, theories, strategies, and found what they have developed as the STRIDE curriculum. And that's what we use. And there are some considerations where there might be some curriculum that you're more familiar with, and that's definitely something that we can dig into deeper, maybe in another conversation. But to the main point is, everything is given to you, and you can use what is fitting and adjust what is not fitting for your students.
I think you paused a little bit. We'll come back to Brittany.
That I need. Here's what I need. And the company actually listens and they build it. And that is pretty impactful to be a teacher and be able to say, hey, I wish I could see all of my students at the same time and annotate on a whiteboard. And next thing you know, 3 months later, new rows in our laps, and we have that ability. And so that's something really powerful when I'm thinking about curriculum. Yes, it's provided, everything is there for you, but also knowing that as an educator, you are trusted to make decisions about that curriculum and adjust as needed to be able to meet your specific group of learners each and every year, which I think is very, very powerful.
Thank you both. Now I want to, because I'll definitely come back to this, but I want to make sure we can have plenty of time for questions. So let me just, I want to move to just letting people know, because I did see quite a few questions about the requirements to teach at Stride. And I think also thanking our recruiters that are in the chat box as well. So I thank you for also addressing those while we're having our webinar. But just so you know, to teach at Stride, all Stride-powered public school teachers hold a valid teaching license prior to hire. And again, like we said, that our schools are state-based, so all Stride-powered teachers must reside in the state where the school is located. So I know we had some folks that were international, but unfortunately we are unable to hire international teachers for state-based schools. So I just want to make sure that's pointed out. And you also have to be certified in the grade level and the subject for your position as well. So keep that in mind when you are looking for positions. If you are in Florida, you're unable to apply for a Colorado position. Make sure if you're applying for a Florida school and Florida position that you're certified in Florida for that grade level and subject area that they're asking for in the job posting. If you are moving to another state, let's say you're moving from Florida to Colorado, when you're applying for that position, now that Colorado position, you have to have your Colorado certification. So again, your certification has to be based in that state that you are located in. And we'll probably say it again, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because I know we have a lot of people that come and they may be in the process of getting their certification, and that's fine. Once you have the certification, feel free to go onto our website and to apply for that position, but just make sure that your certification is within the state that you are applying for. So you're unable to be in one state and apply for other state positions. And real quick, I'll also talk about the hiring process. Once you go onto our website, which is www.stridelearning.com/careers, and we'll also put it in the chat, and apply for a position. You'll apply on the Stride website. After that, a recruiter will review the application. And as far as the time frame, that can vary depending on the hiring manager and their needs. So sometimes it can be a short turnaround time for reviewing applications. Sometimes it can be longer, but please be patient with us, because I know we do have lots of positions that are open on our website and we're ongoing. So as we have more roles that become available, we'll add them to the website. So if you see something, you might not see something in a particular that you're looking for at maybe 1 week, but you can check back and there may be there may be a position that opens up, there may not, but continually go onto our site, because we do update and add jobs as needed. Once they review the application, then if selected, then you'll receive information you'll get an invite to complete a HireVue on-demand interview. And HireVue is our digital platform that we use for our interviews, whether they are a live interview or, as we say, on demand, it's pre-recorded. So you're answering questions and recording them by video. After that is reviewed, the hiring manager will evaluate your on-demand. And if you're selected to move forward, then you'll receive an invite for a phone, virtual, or a face-to-face. Now, I know with the pandemic, we're not doing in-person interviews, but it will be face-to-face through Zoom. And then after having that interview is selected, the offer will be extended to the applicant, and that would come through the recruiter. I know I went through that super fast, but again, we recorded this so you can go back and review this later. But I did want to explain the hiring process as well as the requirements to become a Stride teacher. So now, again, before we answer some more questions, if you want to continue to keep in touch with us, you can follow us on Careers at Stride. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also join our talent community. You can either scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, or you can use the link that's in the chat. We'll put that in a minute. But wanted to just invite you to still follow us and stay in contact, because we will have events that we attend, whether that be an outside event that we're going to be where you can, with our job fair, or another webinar like this where you can hear from different Stride employees and hear their experiences. So, like I said earlier, we've come to the part where everyone can participate, our Q&A session, and I know we've been answering a few throughout the webinar, but I want to make sure I give enough time for our panelists to answer some that come through, and I may call on some of our recruiters if I see any recruiter questions as well. So let's answer some questions. I did see someone ask about reading interventionist or interventionist roles. So if we could kind of touch on what that may look like for interventionists, and if there's any differences from brick and mortar to the virtual space.
Could help with that. I did work with a bunch of reading interventionists, maybe not a bunch, but quite a few in the middle school and high school that I worked at. So those reading interventionists, they have a caseload of students as well who they are assigned to and they work with. They will attend our live Class Connect sessions. And in our platforms, you can have little breakout rooms. So the interventionist can come and pull students as needed kind of into a breakout room. So if you're thinking about it in like a traditional classroom setting, it might be like to the back circle table for a little bit and then come back into the main room instruction where all the rest of the students are. They also have their own schedule as well. So especially for students who have IEP plans, then they have their own schedule. Those students come to their kind of like resource room. So you would think about that as like pull out help for those reading interventionists. And something that I really love at the schools that I work with, and at, just our Stride schools in general, is that we use those reading interventionists across the board in the curriculum. It's not just, oh, go attend this, English class and help with the reading and the writing. They help with that in science class and in history, just across the board. How do you really read a math problem? And I loved that because then students' literacy was something that all teachers were aware of and striving to be better at and support. So it just felt like we were an entire team coming together to help students in their goals regarding reading. And then I just saw Melissa put this in the chat, so I'll just answer. The teachers, we do have summer break, you've got a winter break, you've got spring break, some schools have fall break. So it's a very similar schedule that you will see for teachers as the brick and mortar. So you might even notice in this panel that there aren't teachers in here because a lot of them are still on break and won't be back until August. So you do still have your vacation time as well.
And I saw someone ask about how are standardized tests given and how often?
So the best way that I think about, like, really when we talk about the differences between like school district strategy, all of those elements are still, it's like the same people made the decisions to do those same things, but bring it into an online school. So we are very much structured the same way that my schools were structured when I was in a traditional school environment. So the expectations for state standardized tests are the same based on the state. And that's kind of like something that I help myself understand, like when I was thinking about making the transition from the traditional classroom to the online classroom, because I was thinking about that. I'm like, will I still be preparing for standardized tests? Will that be a consideration? And in the state of Florida, it is, until that's a decision that's made by each state. We follow any state guidelines. And again, all schools are a little bit different, but we do, when it comes to standard state tests, we do take those tests. And that happens in the state of Florida. We did that at Testing Site Centers. It was really cool because it was the one time where I got to see larger groups of my students at a time and test with them. And we kind of spread our teachers across the state of Florida to support our kiddos. And so I remember sending messages to teachers I knew would be at my kiddos testing site to wish them luck and let them know I said hello. So although we're online, the community is still tight knit. A lot of those things that we see that really come from our state or district regulations are going to be so depending on the school. But a lot of those things from the teacher perspective will be the same, again, based on those state regulations.
My next question. Someone was asking, can a teacher be teaching several subjects, for example, math and ESL or foreign language?
They could. It would depend on, what you are licensed in and the size of your school. So for example, one year when I was teaching high school English, I also taught art history, which was really fun. I loved art history. I had a degree in art and I was certified to teach in it. And we just needed a teacher to cover that. So you could be asked to teach different courses, but again, it just depends on your school size, how many students are enrolled, and then what you are licensed to teach.
All right, someone was asking, just to be clear, I am a California licensed secondary special education educator now residing in the state of Georgia. Do I need to become a credentialed from the state of Georgia to teach with Stride? Yes, if you are going to teach for a position in Georgia, then yes, your certification needs to be in that state. Now another, I know someone was asking about the school year. I know we said they don't work year round, but what is it typically follow brick and mortar as far as the timetable?
Yes, it does. Very, very similar.
All right.
And oftentimes, just something to mention, we might have an online school that is a part of a larger district that has many traditional schools. And then they'll also have one online school, and they partner with us with that online school. So we would still follow all of their schedules, their vacation time, all of those pieces. So it really wraps into the district. And so that's why we can say with confidence, we're not year round unless the district is year round, which is a rarity with most of our schools. We most often have a very traditional school year with a longer summer, which is really, really great, because I know that's not true everywhere, but that is true here because we really abide by our partnerships with our districts and our states that we align with. And then that's kind of how we strategize the schedule. So very, very similar to what you'd see in a traditional school district. And it's also possible, that you'd be in a school district now working in an online consideration versus working in the traditional classroom. So some of you might have had like that kind of similar experience when you were teaching online during this crazy time of pandemic. Very similar to how that structure would be, very aligned with what the district is doing, and then the same holiday schedule as well.
Someone was asking, as far as the evaluation for how teachers are evaluated, how many informal or formal evaluations are conducted during the year?
So I believe I had 3 formal evaluations, like one at the beginning, kind of the middle, and then the end of school. And then informal, though, I had an admin. So it's either my principal or our lead teacher walking through my classroom every 2 weeks, just coming in, and it could be for an entire session if it was an hour, or it could have been, for 30 minutes. All of our sessions are recorded here at Stride. So sometimes they would also just pull a recording and watch and see what was happening. So we were very regularly given feedback on our instruction, how to improve. I love that everything was so transparent. In the brick and mortar schools that I came from, in 3 years, somebody came into my classroom to observe me twice in 3 years. And here at Stride, somebody comes twice every month. And it's different sets of eyes too. And it's just so wonderful to get that feedback, know how to improve. So then when I did have my teacher evaluation at the end of the year, there was no surprises. It was just a wonderful conversation that I got to have with my principals about my growth throughout the year. So I really appreciated that change when I came to Stride.
All right, another question. Okay, if you get hired in one state and then move and have a license in that state as well, would you be able to transfer, or would you have to reapply? If you are hired in a state and move, then as far as the state that you move to, you do have to have that certification in the state that you're moving to. So again, if you're in Florida and you got hired in Florida, but then you move to Colorado, then as far as the position, again, the positions are state based. So you're having to be in that state. So moving from Florida, you're going to have to be licensed in Colorado and take position in a Colorado school. You wouldn't be able to teach in Florida. All right. State of Oregon, I believe it says Oregon, allows for teachers to transition into the classroom with a temporary certification from another state. Does this apply to Stride as well? I would check with that one of our recruiters. I'll take that question and we can answer that probably offline. I don't know offhand, but I will make note of that and we can get you connected to the recruiter for that state. Okay, someone asked, I only see the opportunities to apply are only for this open and posted positions. Is this correct? Let me reread that. You only see opportunities to apply that are only for this open and posted positions. I'm not quite sure what you are asking, but when you are on our website, the positions that are posted are open positions that we are actively hiring for. So I hope that answers your question. All right. Let's see.
Dre, if you want to talk about that first question up there about handling students.
Yes. Okay, someone asked, having done quite a bit of remote teaching last year and using a number of tools, I found that some students did not wish to participate or even show up. Of course, parents were contacted. How do you all handle situations like this?
Well, a number of ways. So we do try to contact the parents. If we can't get a hold of them, we always have emergency contact numbers that we can schedule or reach out to if it's gotten to that point. At our schools here in Colorado, we did have a truancy officer as well. I do know that sometimes in really severe, serious cases, she would have to, file educational neglect paperwork issues. So, of course, we don't ever want it to come to that point. So we do really try hard to build our relationships with our students, lots of professional developments that we have, or like in K-12 training, we have regarding how teachers can build those relationships with our families so that the students want to come to class and we're not left wondering, where are they? Is everything okay? But of course, it does happen sometimes. And when it does, our schools do have truancy officers so that they can work on contacting the families, making sure that they're okay, and that teachers are really using their time wisely in their instruction and their planning and their communication with families and not kind of chasing students to see where they are. So there are direct plans in place specific to schools. If you've tried to reach a student maybe 5 times, maybe they haven't logged in for over a week, we do have parent liaisons to contact them and then escalate it as necessary. So, you try calling a student 5 times, they haven't logged into your class for 5 days, then it gets passed on to our family and academic support liaison.
I think something really important to add, thank you so much, that was awesome, Christina, to Christina's narrative is the fact that, a lot of people were put into a remote teaching situation that was very much unplanned for in this time of pandemic. And something that I feel so blessed in is that I worked at a company that was already thinking about these gaps in online instruction. And so we had plans in place, systems in place, training, expectations set, safety nets when those expectations were not set, which Christina spoke to with liaisons, with admin support. But when we set someone up to come into one of our schools, that is a part of what they agree to as a learning coach, is supporting, coming to those live classes, supporting, making sure if they have an older student that's working more independent, comes to those classes. So also from the beginning of the year, that clear, clean expectation is set. And we've been spending all of these years really thinking about, okay, well, we set the expectation, but the student's still not coming, or we've worked on engagement strategies or smaller groups, but the student is still not coming. We've had a lot of time to think about like those liaison pieces, those calls home, those regular calls and advisor supports that we have in place to make sure that those things are better solidified and better planned for, so that, like Christina mentioned, that the teacher, yes, is going to be the best connector in getting that student to class and engaging them because they have the closest relationship. But there are supports and plans in place if that first strategy doesn't work or that relationship doesn't get that kiddo to class every day. and there's a lot of great training that goes into that as well, because you kind of take on this family support role as a teacher as well. And that's why we talked about that in the schedule, because it is important to plan for that. There might be more phone calls home as you're supporting that student in for the first couple months, and then that student will start coming more regularly. So it is something that we're aware of, and it's something that we plan for, because yes, they're not physically right next to us. So sometimes it takes a few other strategies to get the student in class, on camera, engaged. Those are things that we think about and study on a daily basis. And so we make sure that we find new ways to get students into classes. I just thought it was really important to mention that, because I can imagine how challenging that was to go from your traditional classroom to an online environment, and then students not coming when you're used to that student coming to class. But the strategy is a little bit different there, because we've always done it online.
I guess also piggybacking on that, someone was asking about the behavior issues handled in the online, like how are those handled in online classes as well? Or do you
Absolutely.
have a lot of behavioral issues?
Oh yeah, same. Just like, yeah, they're different though. Like someone said something inappropriate in the chat versus someone pushed someone in the hallway. Like the scenarios are different, but the strategies are the same, right? Resetting expectations, setting incentives, especially for those littles that are really thinking about extrinsic motivation. As they're getting older, we can talk more seriously and work towards intrinsic, but we can build systems to motivate students, things like Class Dojo, reward systems, just like, I did in the traditional classroom, but then also having the admin support. Christina talked to great lengths about the support that she had gained from her admin. It doesn't feel like the same kind of evaluation when you're in partnership with your admin and you know exactly what that evaluation score is going to be, because they've been telling you all year long what you need to do to get there, and what you need to do to grow and meet your particular goals for that year. And so that really speaks to the kind of support. So same, I remember in my traditional classroom, if a student wasn't meeting my expectations, after I put firm expectations in place, added in incentive opportunities, but also letting them know very clearly and transparently what happens if you do not meet my expectations, right? Those tools get taken away, or there are steps that are taken. And so each school has a pathway for behavior, similarly to something that you might have seen at your traditional school, to make sure that we have next steps and supports and solutions and counseling services to support our students and make sure that we can continue with no interruption in the classroom as well. And so I think that's very important to think about those structures that live inside your traditional classroom, because we didn't forget about what worked in traditional classrooms to build online schools. We evolved with educators in schools to make sure we were on the same level online. So a lot of those strategies are exactly the same. We didn't necessarily change best practice pedagogy, right, to go online. We just had to change and get ourselves some tools to make doing what teachers do well in the traditional classroom well online as well. So really a lot of the questions we follow exactly, what the guidelines, structures, behavior pathways that you would see in a traditional school. It might not be identical to what is in your school, but it probably stemmed from something or a philosophy that your behavior system currently stemmed from. So we're all kind of working from the same basis. Really, the biggest difference is the tools itself, right? I'm not using my physical whiteboard behind, well, sometimes I am behind me as much as I'm using the whiteboard in my online classroom. Or, I might have to, instead of answering all of my questions in my morning meeting, I might make a parking lot in a breakout room and have students drop their questions there, so I can make sure I answer their questions and continue the lesson. Same thing with behavior. If I need a student who just needs to take a break, can put them in a breakout room with some beautiful music or a yoga video or whatever strategies you would utilize in your classroom, and then bring them back into the classroom when they feel ready to join and comfortable again in the environment. So it's just like, okay, I'm now taking my classroom, because that's what we want. We don't want to change the things that amazing educators do. We want to try to figure out how we can build software to help you do what you do best. So really, when you're thinking about if this is a fit for you, think about that piece. Do I feel like with a software, I could do what I do best, or what would I need to do that well? And then the rest of the things follow those guidelines that were well created. We don't want to recreate the wheel on things that are working well. We just might have to shift our perspective or literally shift the space. And that's where the change comes in.
Thank you, Brittany. I saw someone asking about benefits, I believe in the chat. So I wanted to mention that. I know we didn't particularly have a slide dedicated, but we do offer medical, dental, vision, flexible spending account, parental leave. There's life insurance, as well as eligible employees. We do cover them for eligible dependents. We do offer 401k. There's a bonus, and also we do have professional development opportunities. Another thing I wanted to add is that we do have a partnership with SNHU. So those teachers that are also interested in getting a master's degree, we do partner with them for that. So that's also a great incentive for teachers as well. But I did want to make mention of that. And let's see, because I know we have almost at 3. So I wanted to try to knock out.
Seen a few questions about Keystone. If you want to briefly explain what that is.
Keystone is one of our.
And then you can also keyword search Keystone on our career site to find those for whoever was looking.
That's one of our private schools. I'm not sure, Brittany, if you wanted to, if you had want to share anything on Keystone or not. Okay. Yeah, but Keystone is one of our private schools that we have. Again, we hire for our public schools and Keystone as well. You can look more onto our website. I don't have specific differences of what difference between a Keystone and public schools are, but on our website, you can search Keystone to get more information regarding that.
Yeah, just something to mention there is Stride partners with school districts. They partner with private schools. They partner with what we call learning solutions, where we have a completely different structure of the way our schools and systems are set up. So that really speaks to the line of business, essentially, that we serve there. So there's different types of lines of business, as we call it at Stride, that we service in different ways. And so what we're really speaking to today, and the reason I can confidently say things like we are 100% aligned with the state or with the district we're involved in, is because those schools are set up and situated just like public schools, right? And then we have considerations of charters as well within that bucket. And then we also have the private schools, international considerations. So that's really speaking to like the service that we provide for that particular line of business. So some of the things that we spoke to, for example, standardized testing, state alignment, those things might be a little bit different with the Keystone structure. And that's just something to mention. We really spoke to our MPS managed public schools because both Christina and I come from managed public schools.
And I'll answer one more question. If we haven't gotten to your question today and you still have questions for us, you can send us an email to talentteam@k12.com, and we can also answer your question offline. Any specific questions regarding like your application or a job that you've applied to, then you can email recruiting@k12.com. But our final question before I wrap for today, someone was asking about I'm having concerns about the fact that I am K through 9 integrated curriculum in Florida. I have experience teaching all subjects. Does K through 12 prefer specific high school, or does K-12 prefer specific high school certifications? I'm willing to take the Florida certification test, but will that prevent me from being considered for current high school teaching available positions? And I believe for when you are looking at our positions on our website, just make sure we do have a section where it talks about the certification. So just make sure that your certification is matching what they're requesting in our job posts. And you're not limited to just apply to one position if you're certified in that state. So if there are multiple Florida positions that you see, okay, my certification, my skill set matches, go ahead and apply for those particular positions. So hopefully I answered your question.
Andrea, let me just dig a little bit deeper.
Go ahead.
If they go to that website and they see, okay, high school math, they're like, I'm certified, but I don't have 9th grade algebra, but that's the position available, only 9th grade algebra. Is that something, if they don't see a match there, but they're like, I can teach that, they would need to follow up with someone in recruiting to decipher, yes, I do in fact need to take the test or not. Is that the next step after they look?
Yeah. And that way, like we put in the chat, you can send an email to recruiting@k12.com and you'll be able to ask our recruiters that as well. Because then that way they can follow up with their hiring manager to see what that particular position that they're needing. So it is 3 o'clock. I don't want to extend the time. Again, this has been recorded. So if you came in at halfway through, we will be sending this out to all of our registrants. And we'll also upload it to our YouTube page as well for you to review. I do want to thank Brittany Churchill for coming, as well as Christina Russell. She had to step away. And Courtney for helping us out in the chat box with all of our questions. Thank you all who attended, and thank you for all of your questions. Again, please go onto our website to apply to any positions that you see are fit for you. And if you have any other questions, you are welcome to send us an email on talentteam@k12.com or any recruiting questions to recruiting@k12.com. My name is Andrea Wilson, and this has been another webinar for you all, and we hope to see you next time. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.